If you have used Microsoft Excel for a while, then you must have come across the dreaded pivot tables, which are great and pretty fast for simple and easy tasks, but it's not best suited for complex tasks. For that, we will use pivot tables from Pandas library of Python programming language. For those of you who want to jump directly to pivot table in Python Pandas, I will add a timestamp for it, so you can skip all of this. Our sample dataset is a supermarket sales data with one line per one transaction. We have item weight, visibility, order quantity, sales price, etc. Let's add a pivot table. So if your data is not in table format, you can just select all of the data by doing Ctrl A, then pressing Ctrl T, and this will convert it into a table format. Since my data is already in a table format, I will skip that step. From Insert, click on Pivot Table, click on OK, and you get your blank pivot table. Let's add item type to rows, item MRP to values. The default aggregation is whatever Excel seems is the best as per some of the sample values of the column. Right now, it selected some as best suited aggregation. If you click in the values section where the item is, if you click on the values section and then the actual aggregation, click on it. It will show you a few options. Click on value field settings, and here you can change the aggregation. So if you want to select count, average, we can do that. So let's select count, click on OK. And now we have a count of this column. Important to note here that we cannot perform multiple aggregations on same columns. So for example, if I want sum of this column as well as count of this column, that's not possible right now with Excel. I might need to make multiple copies of same column to do that. Excel Pivot offers an option to add a manual calculation as well. So from pivot table analyze, click on field items and then click on calculated field. And here you can add manual calculation as well. So for example, you want few things multiplied, you can do that. So for example, let's say item MRP into item quantity, and this will add a custom calculated field. Make sure to double check the calculation after you add a calculated field, as pivot table is not always accurate on these calculated fields. Right now we don't want this added, so click on close. And other than this, there's not really much you can do with Microsoft Pivot Table. Enough about Excel Pivot. Let's now jump to Python Pandas Pivot Table and see what it has to offer. Let's jump to our favorite code editor, VS Code. Let me open it up and create Jupyter Notebook inside of it, which is best for learning tasks. Import pandas and NumPy library. NumPy we might need to use for numerical calculations later on. Let's run the cell. Next, we load our sales data into a pandas data frame. Since our Excel file has two tabs or worksheets, read_excel will pick first sheet by default, or we can mention sheet by sheet_name variable, which we added here. That is a sales tab. That will make sure it picks the correct tab or worksheet name. So for example, the sheet we have is called sales, and that is here, which we mentioned by sheet name here, sales. Let's add a head method just to see that the data we loaded is fine. Let's do info method, which will give us information about our columns and an overall summary of our data frame along with memory usage. It also gives us information about total entries. We have 5681 total entries. From that we can figure out which column has how many missing values. For example, item weight has 4705 values, which means it has missing values. Same is the case with outlet size. We also get a summary of memory usage and columns grouped by data type. A helpful trick is to use df.select_dtypes to be able to select specific data columns. Let's do that. Let's select object only columns and do a head method to see only top 3 rows. And you can see we are able to see the 7 object columns and just the top 3 rows of it. Similarly, we can do integer and float as well. Just make sure that you copy and paste data type directly from the info method and it should work. For example, let's paste float here. Alright, so we have 3 float columns. Float is something that has decimal value. Let's paste integer. These are values which don't have any decimal point in it. Now first, let's replicate what we did in our Excel pivot. As a first step, I'm going to paste a structure of pivot table in pandas, which will help us understand and easily create pivots in future. It's always helpful to keep a snippet of your most used codes separately in a notepad or notepad++. So let me paste the code here. So this is the basic structure of a Python pandas pivot table. So we give a new variable name. So df_piv equals pd.pivottable. Here df is the data frame name. Index takes in rows. So I'm just going to add comments here as well. So this is the, let me open up this side by side so we can see. So index is basically Excel equivalent of rows, columns is equivalent of columns, values is the equivalent of values, and the last thing, there is aggfunc, that stands for aggregate function. This is where you will give it what column will need what calculation. This is a bit different from Excel, as we don't have the filter column or the filter parameter here. While in Excel, there is no separate column or area for what calculation that needs to be done. It does it automatically, and you can change it from value field settings to whatever you need. Great. Now I'm just going to keep it here for reference. I'm going to add a new one, and let's start replicating our pivot table from Excel. So our index has item type, so I'm just going to add our data here as a head so we can quickly copy and paste our values easily. So our first thing is df, that is a df data frame name. Index is rows, so let's add item type here, copy it from here. Keep in mind that you can add multiple values in rows or the index field. For now we just need one, so I'm going to remove these two. For the columns, we don't need anything right now in the columns, as this is blank as well. Let me remove this. For values, we are going to add any column for which we will need calculation. So for now we need calculation of item MRP, so let's add it in the values section. So we don't need a second calculation, so let me remove this one. And for aggregate function, we will use a dictionary style to give our calculation method. So we will first give the column name, and separated by colon we will give the calculation. So for now we are going to add mean here. Let me remove this section and let's run it and see what we have saved in our pivot table. Alright, so we actually have a count here. Okay, so let me change this to count and rerun this. Okay, now we should have similar values for these two. So let me get this side by side for quick analysis. Alright, so we have more or less a similar values. So baking is 438, 165, and the last value we have is starchy foods at 121. Great, so far we have similar outputs. Only thing that is missing in Python pandas is the subtotal. Let's see if we can add it. Alright, so we have the option to add margins and margins underscore name. So let's do that. You can also see the options that should be appearing here. So we have margins and margins underscore name. Margins will take in true, and margins name, you will need to give whatever name you want. So let's say fun margin name. Let's run this again, and you can see now we have a subtotal that says fun margin name, and the value equals to 5681, which both are matching here. We have successfully replicated the pivot table from Excel to Python pandas. Let's add two more calculations for weight column, which Excel pivot does not let us do it. So let's change this column to weight column and perform more calculations. So I'm just gonna change this to item weight. Our rows will stay the same as item type. We're just gonna change this to item weight, and here we will add two more calculations. So I'm just going to remove this for now. We don't really need it. Maximize this one. And to give multiple calculations, we can simply wrap this inside of a square bracket as a list, and then we can give more calculations. For example, it's also showing you the calculations you can give here. So one of them we will give is a mean, and then we will do a standard deviation, STD. Let's run this, and the problem that happens is because of the margins. So let's remove the margins for now. I am yet to able to figure out this error, so I'm just gonna remove the margins for now and let's keep going. And you can see we have our three calculations. Wow, this cannot be done in Excel no matter how much you try. Let me know in the comments if you know a way how to do it. Now let's take it a step further and add two new columns with custom calculations. First, we will use lambda function to add length of unique item underscore identifiers column. Let's do that. So we'll add item underscore identifier to our values list because we want to do a calculation on it. And here we will add this column again because our syntax is column name and then we mention the calculation. So let's add it. Here we'll add a lambda function. So what it's going to do is it is going to take unique values from identifier item underscore identifier column and then add a length of it. The second calculation we are going to do is we are going to use length of item underscore fat underscore content. This will essentially give us a count of it. Let's do that. If we add this here, And keep in mind we have to add this same thing in the values list as well, because anything for which we need to perform calculation, we need to make sure we have it in the values list. Let's run our code again, and you can see we have two new columns now. So we have item identifier, that's the lambda function we gave, and we have item fat content length. Great. Let's head over to Excel file and review these numbers. So let me open up the Excel file side by side, and let's see if the numbers we have calculated are correct. So I'm just going to review baking goods for now. So let me filter baking goods. And first thing is item fat content. So we want to see the length of it. So length you can see is 438, which is also the count. So this is the same thing. 438 matches with our result. Now let's look at the second column, which is item identifier. It's this column, and what we did was we calculated the unique of it and then added the length for it. If you look at the total values, it's 438, but we need to look at the unique values. So I'm just going to copy this whole column, paste it in a new sheet, remove duplicates, and now let's look at what the length is. And you can see the length we have is 118, and what we have here is also 118, which is correct. Rest of these I am going to leave it up to you to confirm if these values are correct or if there is any issue with these. Our pivot table looks good. We can simply export this to Excel and it's ready to use. We can do that simply by just typing the data frame name, which is df_piv, do to_excel as always. If you want it extracted in the same directory, just give the file name. So let's say final result.xlsx. Keep in mind that if you give index_false, then this is going to cause an error. So let's try that. And it says writing to Excel with multi-index column is not supported yet. So we'll need to give this as true. And this will extract this pivot table to our Excel file. Let's open it up. If you don't like the way this pivot table is formatted, you can view my video on how to format Excel files using Excel Wings library of Python. That way you can generate your Excel files with proper formatting and ready for presentation or emailing, etc. This wraps up today's video. Smash that like button and watch my other content to support the channel. Till next time, happy pivoting.